I'm Jessica Apfel, Principal and Co-founder for Riverstone Associates, and joining me today is Rohan Cook, technology business leader who's led global teams at companies like IBM, EMC and Verizon, as well as local high-growth firms. Rohan is a business advisor, investor and entrepreneur. Thanks for joining me today, Rohan.
Thanks, Jess. Great to be with you here today.
Rohan, the world is awash with information about crypto and the ecosystems that it lives within. Navigating the different verses between crypto and meta and DeFi is tricky for business leaders and for board members. But you've recently researched everything you can get your hands on to uncover the real opportunities for crypto. So tell us, what piqued your interest initially?
Look, I probably dabbled in this a few years ago when I did an MBA, and part of that was at Stanford Uni in the Valley, and I have a strong connection to the Valley, and I've met a few miners and the usual things, and then made a little bit of dollars from it, and then changed direction and sort of didn't think about it too much, just watching what was happening from afar. But I guess the genesis of this was sitting down to lunch with a couple of good mates of mine, both technology professionals, both being in financial services for a long, long time, very, very successful. People I rate very highly in terms of their knowledge and execution. And we had a full-blown argument happen at lunch. And there was two polar opposites ends of this spectrum. One saying, this is just a fad, and the other one going, no, I'm actually living off this. This is the way I kind of make my money while I do the things I want to do. What it then did is challenge me to go, you know what, I feel like I'm wearing a black and white shirt with a whistle in my mouth here, being the umpire. I've got to, before I can really jump in and have an opinion or think about this, I've got to go and do my research again. I've got to make sure I know more than just the technology. I've got to understand the dynamics of the market and so on. So that's kind of where it happened. And yeah, here we are. So
great. And so how did you go about breaking down the information out there into manageable chunks?
Yeah, I kind of treated myself like a pure novice, and I just started at the very beginning, and that was the best way. Funnily enough, two of the really good resources, if you want to understand what this metaverse thing is, and you know, the joke around Facebook changed the name to Meta is that Meta equals gaming, is actually a couple of movies. One is Ready Player One, and it's really quite astonishingly accurate in what's really happening. And then the second one, there is a great little film called Cryptopia that I watched by a chap that's based in Melbourne. And that really does go through some of the basics and the dynamics. From there, I've done trading courses, both paid and free. I've watched a little bit of YouTube. I basically downloaded every app I can find. I've got every newsletter coming to me. I've been reading. Medium is probably one of the best sources. For $50 a year, it's one of the great sources of info. So I really just went through everything. And then from there, I've just been doing my own little Rohan experiments, if you like, which is, you know, even asking yourself or asking somebody, oh, what's your position on crypto inside of your business? And what I found outside of that is everyone's got a personal opinion and maybe even a personal position. You know, 1 in 5 people, I think it is, have crypto in Australia now of some sort. But at a business level, we're a lot more cautious, a lot more, what does this really mean? Is it 5 years out, 10 years out? Is it here to stay? A lot more questions come around, and the risk analysis is slightly different, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And there's a certain type of lingo that exists within crypto. Share with us what you've learned and how we can make our way through the lingo.
Right, and I think the first thing you're taught in sales is whatever sector you're selling to, know their language, right? And technology is absolutely wonderful and horrible for that. I think the thing I was telling you the other day was that IBM had a bot inside, which basically was for all the different acronyms that they had. And you could go, what is? And you could go, what is an AMD? And it was an air movement device, which is the 3-letter word with a 3-letter acronym for a 3-letter thing, which is just a fan. So it certainly crypto is no different. DeFi, decentralized finance. You know, what is that? DAO. People sort of say, oh, the DOA or the DOE. That's the DAO. People say it in different dialects. That's the decentralized autonomous organization. But even words like HODL, there's a word called HODL that you'll see in capitals, and that's purely because some dude one day misspelt the word hold, and it became a very conscious term within crypto is to buy and HODL. Right. So there are a lot of different terms. There's 18,000 currencies, each with their own name, each with their own 3-letter moniker, a bit like the stock market. And then there's all the surrounding things. You know, what does blockchain really mean? But what are some of the identity management, some of the wallet situations, cold, warm storage? There's lots of different things just to get your head around. And I think the first thing for me personally was when somebody said something, I need to understand what they said without talking crypto. And that in and of itself is probably a lesson. But once you get your head around it, it's pretty obvious and you can move from there. So there is a lot of pieces, moving pieces to that. So it is the starting point in a lot of respects.
Yeah, great. And after the research that you've done so far, what's your viewpoint now? Where do you stand on crypto?
Look, I can only be really candid. From my perspective, it's here to stay. There's a lot of polarizing views that are out there with people that are making millions and buying wonderful houses and whatever else. And you can see that in the news every day. And then those that are very skeptical about the fact that it doesn't follow the same regulatory requirements and some of the other structural elements that, say, fiat currency or the stock market or other, well-established asset classes have. For me, it's really a case of it's here, it's doing something, it's created an asset class, it has a value. Is it perfect? No way. Is it going to go through a lot of change? Absolutely. But it's something that is a mainstay now. And when we look at globalization, we've been talking about globalization for how long now in a real sense. It's one of the things that's going to really drive a lot of globalization. And like anything, it has a really great element to it. In fact, an awesomely good element, and then there's the evil element, and it's really a question of discerning between the two, and what do you risk manage around that. From my personal point of view, this is here to stay. People are going to make money off it, people are going to live on it, people are going to transact on it, and businesses are going to need a strategy on it, and people are going to include it as part of their personal portfolio. So love it, hate it, you've got to respect it.
Embrace it, yes. And so what do you think that means for business leaders, for board members? What's your advice to them?
Look, I think being ignorant is not ever an excuse, but I think then you come down to what are the responsibilities of a board member or a senior executive in any company, and there are some fiduciary responsibilities and some regulatory responsibilities that go along. So first things first, have a strategy. Understand what you're really dealing with, and make sure that the board level itself has an opinion and has some form of activity that's scoping this or at least acting upon it at the end of the day, because the risk is different, right? When you think of a decentralized autonomous organization, as much as it sounds like something from a movie, Star Trek or something to that effect, those exist and people can transact and they can also interact with your brand as well. So I think it's around understanding the risk side of things, it's around understanding the opportunity side of things, but even things like future talent, they're probably going to ask you, what's your position on this? There's a whole range of different things. Future suppliers, future customers are all going to ask, how can I transact or deal with you from a crypto point of view, or even their identity management or something to that effect. So right now, I think it's breaking it down into those chunks, having a strategy, setting a set of pillars, and then really adapting to it, because it's going to become ever evolving. Once you start on that journey, it's sort of the never-ending story in some respects. So
great. And Ron, what do you think is the big opportunity now that you've done this research in crypto? What does that look like for you?
Look, I'm trying to figure that out in some respects from a business point of view as to what business adjacencies there would be. But I think the obvious thing is when you look at international transactions, when you're looking to work with suppliers and build a globalized business, there's obviously a range of opportunity there. I think there's a lot of opportunity to scale your business on the back of this, to invite new talent into your business, to develop the existing talent within your business, to be able to adapt towards this. And I think the other aspect is to use the blockchain technologies and use some of the other adjacent technologies that are being developed that might be crypto specific today, but they might be retail specific, obviously banking specific or manufacturing specific tomorrow. When you look at the world of IoT, artificial intelligence, machine learning, those things are gaining a lot of traction right now, and underpinning a lot of this will be very similar technologies or technologies that could leverage each other. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And I think there's also an opportunity for something like the board or the senior executive team to look at their business and understand the risks associated with their business or the interaction with the marketplace associated with business with crypto, and take some action upon that and either refresh their brand or at least be current with their brand along the way. So to me, there's a lot. A personal one, I think personal identification and how you deal with your wallets is one that I'm seeing a little bit of gaps in the market, and there might be a great startup in that.
Yeah, fantastic. Rohan, thank you so much for coming here today and sharing your learning. This has been really fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, Jess. Glad to be here.